Hi everyone, welcome to the fine-tuning session. The next half an hour is all about platform top tips. So that's both configurations and shortcuts. I'm hoping that some of the things that we go over today you already know about and hopefully already using. If you're using all of them, even better, but I imagine that most people will have at least one new thing to take away today. So let's jump in. So today we're going to be covering key columns and filters that you can use in your data grids to access more information. We're going to be talking about using the data grid and summary dashboard gadgets. There are two gadgets with the most potential that are a little bit underused. Then we have form badges. Then we're going to be talking about configuring your platform forms. That's to hide away options that you don't need and make options that you do need mandatory. Then we're going to be talking about custom list items. So we're going to be talking about configuring your very own purchase statuses, note types, task statuses, and there's a lot more in there as well. And then finally, we'll wrap up with marking course attendance, a little shortcut that not everyone's aware of for quickly marking when a course is completed and who attended. So starting with data grids. So data grids are one of the most configurable areas of the platform. So they are obviously a really great actionable area. It's where you go to add new, edit, delete. This is where you go to do things. But they're also a sneaky reporting tool. So I'll give you a quick show and tell of what I mean with that. So every single one of your data grids can be completely changed in a matter of minutes to show you information that you need. So if we take, for example, the class courses data grid, at the moment, we're only seeing future courses, but I can further filter that to show me only future courses that are low profit or only future courses that don't have a venue set yet. And I can very, very quickly change my view based on filtering the results. I can also quickly change which columns are included. So if I really need to know the fill rate for my courses, I can quickly add a new column in. Have a little search for fill rates. Oh, if you click on it, there we go. Hit apply, and there we can see our fill rate for each of these courses. You can also sort as well. So sorting, if you want just a temporary sort for right now, you just literally click on the column at the top here. So if I want to sort by fill rate, I just give it a little click here. I can see my lowest at the top, or I can click on it again to get my highest at the top. If I wanted that to be a permanent sort, so what I mean by that is the next time I open up this course's data grid, I want my sort to be remembered, then I would do that through the add columns area here. And I would say, I want to sort by lowest fill rate first, take out my other sorting and apply, and that'll be remembered the next time that I open up this data grid. Awesome. You can also remove columns to tidy up your view super quickly. Just right click on the column at the top. So that's a right click anywhere along here and click on remove column on the option that you want to take away. And that's all there is. Now, despite being a really powerful and configurable function, a lot of admins never change those default settings, or they do it once during the implementation phase and don't change them again. And that's not a particularly bad thing. We're not really taught to make changes to things constantly. It isn't really drilled into us, but that's what your data grids are there for. They're there to be, potentially updated multiple times a day. They're there to be dynamic and support you with each action that you're working on throughout the day. So if we take the delegates data grid, for example, if I just head right down to smart grids, let's have a look at the class delegates data grid. If I was managing delegate transfers, I would want completely different columns in here to when I would be emailing delegates. When I was emailing, I would probably want to include their email address, and then I could see which of my delegates have an email address and which don't. Get that applied in there, so that's handy. When I'm generating invoices, I would want totally different columns again. If I was processing bookings, I would probably want the invoice status, and we'll come back to this column in a little bit later on as well. And I really want you to encourage, I really want to encourage you to have a look at the information that's available in your database, and you'll get familiar with it, what you can include, because it can absolutely save you hours in the long run. Now, I'm not going to talk about adding and removing columns because we've just seen that. I think you probably got that part down. But I do really want to show you a couple of specific columns filters that are available in your data grids that can really speed up that day-to-day process. So moving back, the first one is when you want to view a delegate's transfer history. Now we can see here we're looking at the delegates data grid. We've got a list of delegates that have been booked onto courses, and we can see one of them is transferred. Here we go. So Addy currently has a status of transferred, and using these two columns here, transferred from and transferred to, we can see that transfer history. So we can see first aid at work on the 12th of the 12th is what they have transferred to. Now, there is also the transferred from as well, which will show us per delegate where they came to this course from. So Adriano here was on the Safety at Heights course on the 8th of December, but is transferred to the Emergency First Aid at Work on the 11th of December instead. These columns are super handy. I'll just give you a quick show of where you can find those. So still in the delegates data grid, we would add in new columns here. Click the plus button to add a new column in, and then it's just our transferred from and transferred to. There we go, lovely. So these are empty because none of these delegates have been part of a transfer. They've not transferred to these courses or transferred from these courses, but I have got a little filter at the top here that I can apply that will show me only delegates that have been a part of a transfer. There we go. So I can see here's Adriano that we were looking at earlier. We've got where they transferred from and transferred to. Fab. Now this filter is built up using both of these two columns. So if I just double click on it, that will show me the edit mode for the filter. So double click. Now in the edit mode, my filter is built up as the transferred from is not empty, transferred to is not empty, and then I've used this new toggle option here. Now, if I'd have left it set to the default, so all, this will have only showed me delegates that have both transferred from and transferred to. And so that's quite unusual that someone would have transferred and then transferred again. I mean, it might not be that unusual, but it's more unusual. But if I want to include every delegate that has either transferred from or transferred to either of those, then I just need to change this toggle option to be any, and it will give me any results back where someone has a value in either here or here. And save. So that's our filter. Okay, the next one that I want to show you is how you can view and manage sessions. So we're going to be going back to the courses data grid for this one. Now this applies to both classroom courses and web courses, whichever you may use, kind of use the most within your business or both. And there's a column in the data grid that lets you see which of your courses are sessions of another course. And if so, what course they are the session for. So I'll show you what I mean. It's this parent course field here. So if I just head back into the platform and then let's have a look at the courses data grid. I'm using class, but like I said, this is available in the web one as well. And the column, if I just change fill rate here, is parent course. Now there is both an ID and a labels. For the data grid, I want to use the label because I want to see the name of the parent course. So I get that added in there. And I can see for each of my courses, if they have a parent, so if they are a session, and if so, what are they the session of? So if we take the mental well-being here, we can see we've got mental well-being day 1, day 2, and day 3 are all sessions of the mental well-being package. And then equally, we also have safety at heights, emergency first aid at work, and first aid at work are sessions of the safety package. Now, these, similar to the transferred from and transferred to, if you spotted earlier, are links. So you can left click on these. Left clicking will give you options specific to this particular link here. So I can go and edit the course. I can preview the course to see more information about it. And that's just about that parent. So I can get a bit of an overview of what that parent course has got going on. List of all the delegates, any placeholders, resource requirements, and there's also notes and tasks and more information that's quite useful that's available in here if there are any. Fab. Now I can also filter on this. So if I click to add a new filter to my data grid, I can filter to only see courses that are sessions. So if I just want to look for sessions, I would search for that parent course. And then just a little bit of a top tip, when I'm filtering, I tend to use IDs rather than labels, because with labels, it's asking me to type. I would need to type safety package. And let's say someone renames the safety package, my filter's no longer going to work. And also typing it's a little bit more prone to human error. Whereas if you have an ID equivalent that you can use instead, dun, 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 then this is going to give me a selector. So I can go and have a search and select my safety package course. So a little bit less prone to human error. And also I'm covered if anyone renames this or changes anything, I'll be sorted by that. Anyway, back to the filter that we were looking at. So I only want to see courses that are sessions. So for that, I only want courses that have a parent course. So I'm going to say the parent course is not empty. Click preview to check that's working for me, and fabulous. I've only got courses that are sessions now. You can also obviously do the reverse as well. So if I'm not interested in sessions, I just want to look at standalone courses, or I just want to have a look at sessional courses, those two together, things that can be booked, just reverse that. Parent course is empty, hit preview, and all of those sessions will be hidden, tucked away. Fab. Last example with this is going back to what we were looking at before. If we change this filter condition to is in, then I can choose my parent course. So let's take that safety package, hit preview, and then I can see all the sessions for just that course. I can then manage changes, mark attendance, whatever it is I need to do for those courses. Okay, moving back to the delegates data grid for this one. This is viewing and managing invoice delegates. And this is always the one that we find when we go on site to speak to people. If they don't know about this yet, they always get the most excited about this one. And it's essentially adding a shortcut to invoices from your delegates data grid. So within the delegates data grid, let's head back over there. So down to smart grids, have a look at our class delegates. Get rid of those. So the two columns are invoice status that we added earlier, and then invoice reference. So we'll get those added in. So using this information, take my filter off, I can see whether or not my delegates have yet been invoiced. If they haven't been invoiced, it will be completely blank. If they have been invoiced, I will get an invoice reference for them. Now, if they've been invoiced and the invoice has been committed, then excellent. I will have a full invoice reference here. You can see the inv and the number. If the invoice has been generated but hasn't yet been committed, I will have a no reference set. And you can see these also have a status of temporary. The status also indicates to me whether payment's been made. So if we've had zero payment on this delegate's invoice, it'll be down as outstanding. Part completed means we've had some payment, and then completed means that invoice is done, no payment due at all. Fab. And again, these are links. So if I left click on these, then I get options to preview the details of the invoice. I can also get through to the editing of the information, and I can view the invoice in the data grid. So if we take this top option here for Lanny, so Lanny's on the emergency first aid at work, they have an invoice, but it hasn't been committed. They're on the phone to me and they are ready to make a payment. So for this, I would be able to just click on here, go view an invoice data grid, which will shortcut me over to the invoices data grid just for Lanny's invoice. That's all that's going to be displayed in here. It's going to save me a lot of time because I don't need to go into the finance invoices data grid and start searching around for the right invoice. It's just ready to go for me. I can give it a view, make sure that it's contained all the right information. Any discounts that I'm expecting have been put in place and so on, but I'm happy with that. So back to the invoices along the top here. I can then right click, get that committed. So it's now an outstanding invoice instead of temporary, and I would then be able to process payment on behalf of him at that point there. Cool. So if I head back to that delegates data grid, we can now see there's Lanny with their outstanding invoice instead of temporary. So that's those two, invoice reference and invoice status. Okay, moving along to a little bit of data grid, I suppose, best practice. So as it says here, bulk editing can be quicker than editing. Now, the bulk edit is obviously traditionally used for mass updates. So to set a lot of delegates to be on hold or set a bunch of courses to be advertised. But sometimes it can genuinely be quicker, even if you're not making mass updates. So let's take, for example, someone's got in touch, you've got a customer that's got in touch with you and they want to opt out of marketing. So if we head over to the users data grid, here we have a list of all of the people, all of our customer users. And the usual way to unsubscribe someone from marketing would be to find their user, so Darcy Adaman, head over to edit, we'll go to their contact details, scroll down, find their marketing, and then we would opt them out and save. And that would be the usual way to do it. So that relies on you knowing exactly where this setting is. It's a little bit of scrolling. It's fine. But it is quicker to use the bulk edit for this. So we would land on the user's data grid, we would select the user that wants to opt out, click bulk edit, find the field we'd like to update, and then we would make sure that was unticked and saved. So just as a little bit speedier. Okay, I'm nearly done with data grids, I promise. So I just want to talk about searching criteria before we move on. So maintaining the searching criteria in your data grids can lead to much faster and more accurate searches. So for example, that's the searching criteria, by the way, is this here that you can see when you are next to the search option there. So if we take just a quick example, let's say we've got 1,000 users or 10,000 users stored in your accessplanit platform. That'd be quite a lot of people stored in there. And we were searching for a specific person. So let's say Dave, they want to opt out of marketing. So we're searching in the user's data grid for Dave. If we left this searching criteria in place, so email address, first name, last name, and main account name, then your search is going to run the letters DAVE through all 4 of these. So that means you'll be getting back every single user that has first name of Dave, or first name containing Dave, last name containing Dave, so Davenport. Anybody who works for an account that contains the letters DAVE, and finally, anyone who's put it in their email address. So it could be a middle name that they've got in their email address. So by amending this searching criteria, you not only will cause your platform to have run through less stuff to check, so it'll be quicker, but also the results that you get back will be a lot more specific and therefore accurate. So quick show and tell of where you can find this. So if we just stay where we are on the user's data grid, the searching options are, like we said before, just beside the search. Click the little arrow and then you can choose what you are searching for. There's a lot of options in here. So if I was searching specifically just for Dave, I could take out anything that I know I'm not searching in. I can also enable exact match only, so that will only bring back where the text is exactly Dave and not Dave it or whatever it might be. And then if I do a little search, then I'm only going to get back Dave's. Okay, final thing on data grids is filtering. So filters support you completing a huge range of tasks. So whether that's searching for a specific customer, finding all of your data delegates, that are currently on a waiting list, whether you're searching from some specific criteria, just trying to report on numbers, whatever it is, filters are amazing for supporting these kind of activities. And within each of your data grids, you have 2 lists of filters. So you've got your commonly used filters should be up here in the filters bar. Woo-woo. Then your less commonly used filters should be tucked away under the filters drop down. So we've got 3 in here. There's historical courses, mental well-being, and not advertised. And this list here means that your filters bar can stay nice and tidy, targeted, and you just need to single click to enable any of these on your data grid. So just show you a quick show and tell of this. So if we're on the user's data grid and I just want to see people who have been say people who are a manager, single click, and there we go, nobody as it turns out. So if this filter is not particularly useful for me, I'm not using it on a day-to-day basis, I can just click this little X icon here. It's not going to delete the filter, it's just going to tuck it away in my filters list here. And then if I need to get it back at any point, I just click from the filters drop down, click on the filter, it's going to bring it back in here and it'll also apply it. Now, when you're creating new filters, there's a couple of tips that I'd like you to kind of keep in mind. I'd always recommend thinking about what you want before you start diving into building that filter, because what I find is you can spend quite a lot of time when we're creating a new filter trying to find the option that we want to filter on this list. And if you're not that familiar with all of the options yet, this can be a little bit daunting. So what I recommend doing before you jump into building the filter is adding the columns that you think you might need to use into your data grid. So you can have a little bit of a nosy round, see what information is included in there before you start building up your filter. And then the second one is labeling your filters well. I know for a fact, a lot of people have filters called my filter 1 and my filter 2. So I urge you, please rename them so it makes it a little bit easier for your own brain when you're on your data grid and choosing which filters you'd like to apply. The main reason for that is not only knowing what that filter represents, but also filters are listed in the filters bar in an alphabetical order. So you can see here we've got things like prefixes like role at the beginning to group all of the role-based filters at one, in one place. We've got a similar thing when it comes to the delegates data grid with status. So we've used the status option, status of waiting list, status of transferred, to put these status-based filters together. So that's why I think it really take your time with thinking about how you would like to label your filters to make everything as easy for you as possible. Cool. Okay, so moving on to dashboards. So dashboards are they're your own personal shop window. So when you log into your platform each morning, it's the first thing you're going to see. And if there's one thing I could really encourage you to do is to invest time in building a dashboard that is really useful to you. So not useful to your team, not useful to your manager, something that's for you, that's going to offer you shortcuts, information that's going to speed up, your processes, your day, your reporting, highlight to you activities that you need to complete. Because dashboards that's what they're really there for. Your dashboard gadgets should serve you. And there's two types of gadgets that I want to talk about today. That's the data grid gadget and the summary gadget that I mentioned when we went over the agenda. What you'll probably have had when you first joined accessplanit was a dashboard that looks a little bit like this, with some kind of standard statistics gadgets, our little news feed, and then a data grid of upcoming courses. All of this is really nice. It's useful. It's generic. But I want you to really think about what's good for you, what works for you. So I'm hoping that these two gadgets that we talk about today, the data grids and also the summary, there'll be a little bit of inspiration for you. So I'm going to start with the summary gadget, and it really is a very handy reporting tool. So for anybody who is experienced in Excel, the summary gadget is essentially the equivalent to a pivot table. So it's used to summarize a lot of information into a easy to digest table. So in this particular gadget that we can see here, you can see a list of companies, so invoice targets, how many invoices they have outstanding, and the value of these outstanding invoices. So we've got our target, number of outstanding invoices, and the value of these outstanding invoices. So I'll show you how this gadget was put together. So if we head back to the dashboard, scroll down, it's this one here, we have it here. So if I just click the little arrow and head to settings, we can see how this was put together. So this is a summary gadget, just called it overdue invoices. It uses the module of invoice because that's where we're getting our information from. And then for the columns, we are looking at target, so who is being invoiced, and that is grouped. Then we've got ID. So this is the ID of the invoice. It's the unique identifier. No two invoices have the same ID, and we're counting those. Now, because we're grouping on target, we're going to be counting the number of unique IDs per target. And then third, we have outstanding. So normally this would show us the outstanding balance for each of our invoices, but we are choosing to sum it. So per invoice target, that's what we're grouping on, we are showing a sum of the outstanding balance. I've chosen to include totals at the bottom, and then I've also added a filter to only factor in invoices that are either outstanding or part completed. Any completed invoices, temporary invoices, I'm not including in this right now. It's just outstanding and part completed. And that means that my count is not going to be including any of those outside of this criteria. So there we have a save, and boom, there we have it. List of targets, how many invoices they've got outstanding, and the outstanding value of those invoices. Back into the data grid, because I just wanted to show you a couple more examples before I move on to the other type of gadget, data grid gadget. So here we have a cancelled courses per month gadget. So this is showing us per course template and per month how many cancelled courses there have been. So this would be really handy for us tracking volumes of cancellations throughout the year and also per course offering. So as it happens at the moment, we've only had 2 cancelled courses. Both of them were in February, one for the mental wellbeing and one for the leadership course. Now this has been built up as, there we go, we are grouping by course template name. We are also grouping by start date, and we've chosen to group that based on month and year. And then we are counting the number of courses. And again, whenever we're counting, we should always try and use IDs because they're the unique identifier. No 2 courses have the same IDs. So we're counting how many courses per month and year per course template name. Then we're filtering on the start date being in the last 3 months and the course status being cancelled. And then I think I skipped over this before. The module we're using for this is course date. Final example, and then we'll move on, is transactions. And this shows us the total amount of revenue per transaction method. So for this, we are using the transactions module. There we are. And we are grouping by transaction method and summing the total amount. I could also add filters in here for date of transaction, method of transaction potentially as well could be useful. But yeah, there we have it. That's the summary gadget. Okay, now actually moving on, the second type of gadget I wanted to talk about today was the data grids gadget. And the reason I wanted to include this, because obviously data grids are everywhere. You'll have used data grids throughout many pages of the platform. And I wanted to show you it to show you that you can use these dashboard gadgets to show you information that isn't actually available as standard on a page. So take, for example, placeholders. At the moment, you can go to each course individually, and you can have a look at the placeholders on that course, one at a time, but there isn't a dedicated page to have a look at all placeholders in one place. So if you wanted to have a look at all placeholders for next month, or you wanted to look at all placeholders that have not yet been invoiced, or all placeholders that have unused places, there isn't a place to do that except for on your dashboard. So if I just move back, here is one I prepared earlier. This is placeholders that currently have unused places. So this is showing me across the different courses that we're running, any courses that have places where they have unused places. So to do that, we are using the placeholder module. I've chosen which columns from that placeholder module I would like to include on my dashboard. Then I've chosen to filter that based on unused places being greater than 1. They were booked in the last 12 months, and currently the placeholder is active, so it's not transferred, cancelled, anything like that. The second example of dashboard gadgets that will show you data grids that aren't necessarily available elsewhere is the transactions data grid. So again, for every invoice in your platform, you can go and have a look at the transactions, so payments, refunds that have happened, but there isn't a place where you can go and look at all your transactions, except for on your dashboard. So here we have a list of all transactions, what date, what transaction method, the amount, and who is the payee. So very, very similar to the placeholders one. We select our module. So for this one, it is transactions. Choose which columns you would like to include. Then you could add filters. Perhaps so there's the placeholders and there's our transactions. Okay, so moving on to forms, this is our final area for today. The first thing I want to talk about is badges. So I bet most people have seen badges before. It's these colourful numbers here, but most people haven't actually clicked on them. So what they're there for is to provide you with pre-filtered lists of information so that you can access info quickly and complete actions more quickly as well. So that's these here. So I'll give you a quick demo through of that as well. So if we just go and find ourselves a nice course, so pick this safety at heights course here. So the badges will show us numbers. So we can see 2 in the unassigned, 6 in the booked, and we can see a total number of 9 delegates. For placeholders, we've got a total of 3, 2 that have unused places and 1 that is completely sorted. And then also lower down, we've got tasks. So we can see the total number of tasks, and then overdue tasks is shown in red. And you can click on these numbers to get a pop-up pre-filtered list just showing you the delegates that meet that criteria. So for the red unassigned delegates, we can see our 2 cancelled delegates here. And we can then get them selected. We can complete actions like emailing them, generating documents from here. Really handy. So even more handy for your delegates that are booking and completing, that meet that green status. That's badges. Moving on to configure forms. Now, this is a super administrator feature. It's very cool. It gives you the ability to hide away settings that you don't need. So if there's a lot of accessplanit standard, options on your forms that you don't ever touch, hide them away. So make your forms a little bit more user-friendly for your team. But it also gives you the option to make other settings mandatory. So if there's something you fundamentally need for your business to function, then you can make that mandatory so that your admins can't skip past that option. So just show you where that lives. That is this configure forms option here. So we click to configure our form and we can choose what we would like to hide away and what we would like to make mandatory. There we go. So I cannot save without providing my alias override. Really quick and easy to change around. Awesome. The important thing to know about configure forms is unlike the other changes that we've been making today to the data grids, to the dashboard, the changes that you make here apply to every admin. So if you say something is mandatory, it'll be mandatory for everybody. Okay, so custom list items. Now, this is used by so many different areas of your platform. It's where you can set up purchase statuses, product and service types, task statuses, note types. You can read the list there. There's lots of available options, things you can change and manage. I just want to talk you through how these work and how you can make changes to them. So I'll take the purchase status as an example. Purchases are created when somebody buys a product and service. Now, if you don't use product and services in your platform, you haven't got that module, but just to let you know, they're typically used for things like purchasing books, consultations, equipment, just any other services, either alongside courses or standalone. So if we just head over to products and services, for each product and service that we have, we can go and have a look at the purchases for it. So here we have ABBA LLC, currently has a status of delivered, and you can update the statuses directly from here to say this has now been cancelled, it's in progress, it's been shipped, whatever status is applicable. All of these statuses can then trigger workflows, to automate emails to your customers, to your team. So super handy. Now, if you wanted to change the options that were available in this status option, we would head over to Profile and Administration, go to our custom list items, and here is lists that we already have in place, are in progress through to delivered. Fab. Now I can rename from here. So if I go to edit, I can rename my options, or I can add new options. I have just worth noting, I've got a filter in place here to only show me purchase statuses. But so you can see if I just click through here, there are so many custom list items that cover a wide range of options in your platform. So if we just put that filter back on, awesome. I'm going to create a new option in here. And that is going to be reviewed, let's say. I want that to be enabled. I do not want it to be my default option. And now if I head back to my products and services, have a look at the purchases for my first aid kit. And now Abbott LLC have now left us a review. Very nice. We can say that that has been reviewed and we are done. Now, as I mentioned, this covers a wide range of areas. So if you want to define your task status order, you want to define new file types, you would do all of that through custom list items. Okay, final feature I'm going to talk about today is the tool that's available for marking course and delegate statuses super quickly. This also applies to cancelled courses, so you can really quickly mark a course as cancelled and all the delegates as cancelled. Trainers do have access to a similar tool, so you can request that they mark course statuses too. So this lives, if we head over to courses class, when we're marking attendance, it's just a right click to get to the context menu options and then select the edit course and delegate status option. So this will bring up a little pop-up for us where we can say this course is now completed. And I'll just pick another course actually, because that one doesn't have any delegates. So if I pick on the safety at heights course, edit course and delegate status, if this course had just finished, I would change the course status to completed. Now I can, if I would like, apply status to delegates. And what this will do is go through all of the delegates and mark them as completed. I tend to go through them manually just because I like that, you know, it's better to have the control over it, in my opinion. So I would change the people that attended, they would go down as completed. The people that didn't turn up would go down as no attends. And then once I was happy with that, we get there saved and closed, and that is our attendance marked all in one go. Okay, so a bit of a recap of everything that we've covered. Talked about some key columns and filters that you can use within your data grids. We talked about the transferred to and transferred from columns, the invoice status, invoice reference, and the parent course info from your courses data grid. We've had a look at two types of dashboard gadgets, the summary gadget and the data grid gadget. We had a look at form badges as well, so those little colourful numbers that can then cause data to pop up and be for shortcuts. We then looked at configure forms, so how you can hide away information that you don't need and set information that you do to be mandatory. Then we looked at custom list items for managing your purchase statuses, but we can also use that for note types, task statuses, file types, and so on. And then finally, we ended there with marking course attendance. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this. I hope you got something out of it. Thanks.